When the outdated tactics get left behind, it's time we stop. Marketers look around when your ranking's going down. It's the Jim and Ann Show. Today, we have a special day because we're here with Dwayne Forester, who is the VP of Industry Insights for Yext, and he's been there for over 5 years. In his past work, he also worked for Microsoft and Bing for more than 9 years, where he was a senior product marketing manager with Bing, and he helped to run the Webmaster Tools program and the SEO program at MSN. And he's the author of a couple books on how to make money with your blog and how to turn clicks into customers. And he was the Search Personality of the Year in 2014. He's a speaker at SMX, PubCon, SEO Oktoberfest, and a whole bunch of other conferences. We are happy to see Dwayne here.
Jim, and thank you both very much for having me today. This is fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I feel that so many companies overlook UX.
Oh, yeah.
And it's probably one of the biggest areas I think is overlooked. Like people searching for services don't even think of that or something,
No.
I guess kind of tied along with that, maybe conversion rate optimization as well.
This whole thing around UX is so incredibly important because when you look at data, it shows that consumers are willing to pay more for a better experience today. So same product, I can get it cheaper online than at Amazon. However, I will pay the extra $1.09 and I will get it from Amazon because I know I trust the delivery will happen and I trust it will happen on the timeline that Amazon told me or sooner. The other retailer, I don't really know them, even though they've got decent ratings. There's a whole bunch about this that I don't already have that trust in experience with. So consumers today definitely will pay more for a better experience. And that doesn't mean that you should define a better experience and then suddenly raise your prices. But what it does mean is their expectation of the user experience is heightened. And if you're not stepping that up and your competition is, then that price gap where you say, oh, but you will beat them on price. I don't care. I'll pay their price because I just want it and I want to feel good about getting it.
How do you define someone's plan in there? Like, how do you define what are different user experiences, or what is the content that should be written? What are people looking for? How do you come up with a content plan?
So honestly, this is you just dropped a bomb and it's going to explode. So here we go, Jim. It's kind of, I love doing things like this. When I sit with clients, we'll kind of go into this. This isn't a service that my company provides. But of course, whenever I'm on a call, I'm happy to give this guidance and help whoever I'm talking to out. But really, it starts with tried and true. I trust that you're doing your keyword research and you got that side of things buttoned down. Okay. The next layer to this, who owns your on-site search? Because you need to be looking at the data that people are putting into that search box. Okay. Even if it's a crap experience, I don't care, right? Like I'm not being altruistic. I'm truly being mercenary about this. Because whether you fail the person or not on the search, your system is capturing the query they entered. And that query is the key to intent. So if somebody does a query on Google and you show up near the top of the stack or high enough up that the person is willing to click on you and they come to your web page, you've already jumped over a hurdle, right? Like you ranked, you got the click. Now the question is, what are you going to do with that click? Are you going to throw it away or are you going to maximize it? And so now the moment is if your content matched the query, you have the person for the few seconds that they'll pay attention to the answer you're giving for the query. The very next thing that the consumer is predisposed to doing, because they came to you doing a query, asking a question, if they answer their question with your content, they'll have more questions. They will immediately want to ask that question. And this is why your search box is so damn important, because they will hit that because humans are lazy. And rather than going back to Google and having to redo their search, they'll just go, oh, that's my question here. Now, this is a pass fail moment for a lot of businesses. Pass is you've got a great experience, it's Google-like, and it keeps the person engaged, and they stay cycling with you. And now you have the opportunity to get them into your funnel. So that means you're going to mine all those questions. You're going to come up with what's the frequency of the question, what's the topic of the question, and then how do we actually produce content that answers that question to best effect.
I got a question about that.
Yes.
So
fire away.
In the past, with things like Panda and everything, where it used to be you wanted to have a huge site to cover everything. And then Panda came along and we're like, all right, no, we don't want a huge site. We want a much smaller, more focused site. Kind of based off of that, at one point, when we started doing keyword research and things around questions and wanting to answer all the questions, we're like, all right, we have all these questions. Where do we put them? And the old thought was, we'll throw them on that, page about that product, whatever. We're going to have all that stuff there. And more recently, we've kind of changed on that and said, you know what, let's not have a page a mile long, because if someone's searching for a question, your page about this thing, user intent, that happens to have some questions down here and a million of them, they're never going to find that question. Probably you're probably not going to rank for it. Let's put that question on its own page, and that page doesn't have to be really, the page, I guess, depending on the user intent, it's serve the user intent. Maybe the answer is really short. It's a yes or no question. You say, blah, blah, blah. The answer is, if you're blah, 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 it's no, because blah, 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 period. Right. All right. Maybe another one needs to be 2,000 words. But I guess part of what we've done with writing the content now to answer those questions, to try and be the expert around widgets or whatever, it's now finding the questions, defining the user intents, grouping keywords based on user intents, writing pages for those.
Exactly.
And not throwing it all on one page the way that, we used to.
So historically we would do that, right? Because we try to make one URL about the thing. And then that one URL would conquer all, and now it is purely about the user experience. So a couple of things in our favor here. Let's say you did decide, I'm going to put it all on one page. Like, I'm going to take that approach and I'm going to fatten up this page a little bit. Not, terribly so, but more so than it was. That's okay, because the systems at Google, the systems at most of the engines today are capable enough to go through and go, okay, I see. The answer to the question is actually halfway through the fourth paragraph. Got it. And that's where we find a lot of snippets being pulled from, is Google will look at something and say, this better answers the question than anywhere else, except, and I see this all the time, right? And I'm sure you guys too. You go in, you see the feature snippet and you're like, I think there's more to this. You click through to it because you want to read it. You scan the entire page and you're like, damn it, I can't even find what was in the snippet. Like, where was that? Because there's so much and you're scanning and you missed it and that kind of thing. Yeah. So there's another layer.
Well, it's hard too if you have one page trying to service 20 different user intents, so to speak.
And honestly, to me, that's just a big fat fail, right? Yeah. Like if you're going to come to me and you're going to say, we need to save URL space, or we're going to base this on crawl budget or some crap like this, I'm looking at you going, no. Like, look at an intent and put everything you can that answers that intent together. And if it makes sense on one page, then it's on one page. If it makes sense on 2 pages, then it's 2 pages. Damn it, if that makes sense on 10 pages, then it's 10 pages. Like this is about what is the intent of the user. So when I wake up in the morning and my refrigerator is broken, what is my intent? My intent is to fix my refrigerator or replace my refrigerator. Those are the only 2 intents I have with a broken refrigerator. Along that journey are a ton of things that I'm going to learn and educate myself on. And then some things that are going to force my decision. Like, for example, the repair person is telling me it's going to be 2 weeks for the part and it's going to cost me $3,000. Meanwhile, I can go down the street to Home Depot, and Home Depot is telling me it's $2,500 for a new fridge and we can have it delivered tomorrow. Oh, and we'll take your old one away. Neither one of these is acceptable to my wallet in the moment, but I can tell you which one of those I will pursue. I want the fridge. So there's a very clear definition for a lot of intents, right? Like, I love coffee. Well, okay, then from there, you kind of know where you're going, right? But there's another kind of like meta layer on all of this, which is really, really important today. And it's understanding the consumer and their mindset. So generationally speaking, okay, Jim and I, definitely Gen Xers, okay, and millennial. And when you go down, what you start finding is the attitudes towards solutions to problems and the intents vary between these generations. Jim, Dwayne, Ann, all breadwinners, all have money, all can afford to buy a refrigerator. Our choices along that and what matters to us will vary a great deal. I want the fridge that fills the space in my kitchen, and the one in my kitchen, the space I have is wider than my fridge. And it turns out that in order to get a fridge to fit that, it's $5,000 for a fridge of that size. Okay, that's my great white whale. That's my holy grail that I'm working on. Okay, and maybe interested more in energy efficiency. And so the intent for Anne is get the fridge, but then there's another layer to that. And that might be Anne individually, but it's also Anne as a representative of a cohort, that entire generation. So now let's go back to your content, Jim, because if your content is talking about have the latest and greatest, the designer styles, maximize your square footage, make sure you've got this extra feature, none of that is resonating with Anne or her cohort, because her cohort is like, look, I do entertain, and it would be nice to have something that's larger, and I want the stainless steel, but not at the expense of it runs my energy bill up more. That is first and foremost to me. So now you have to start understanding intent from that generational standpoint. So again, ripples in a pond, like it's not as simple as just saying, because we started this conversation, I'm going to say about 7 or 8 years ago now in the industry around intents. And really it was Google and Bing talking out loud about intent, and that's what they're focused on. And today intent is it's just all about the details, all about the nuance.
Marketers look around.